You've almost made it to the finish line. At this point of the program, you've completed 3 projects and have included them in your online portfolio. So the time has finally come. You're ready to apply all of your UX design knowledge in the real world. In this part of the course, you'll make final adjustments to your portfolio to ensure it's ready to share in job applications. Next, you'll explore the UX design interview process. You'll learn how to conduct pre-interview research about the job and company you're applying to. Then you'll get to know different types of interviewers and develop strategies to build rapport with those interviewers. After that, you'll learn how to structure your responses to interview questions using the STAR method. You'll also explore some common types of UX design interview questions, including an elevator pitch, a portfolio presentation, a whiteboard exercise, and a take-home design exercise. Finally, you'll enter the world of freelancing. You'll create a business plan and learn how to find and land your first customer. There's a ton of exciting information to come, and I'll be here to support you as you prepare to find a job as a UX designer. All of your hard work is about to pay off. So what are you waiting for? Let's get started. First off, congratulations. You've created 3 UX design projects that are ready to share with the world. That's a huge accomplishment, and I commend you on making it this far. Now that your projects are uploaded to your portfolio, it's time to start thinking about how to present your work to potential employers. It's important for your portfolio site to convey who you are and the type of jobs you're interested in. The way you position your portfolio and the design choices you make on your site will help communicate your identity as a designer and how you'd like to be evaluated as a potential hire. There are lots of different types of jobs out there, including positions at large companies, design agencies, startups, and contract agencies. You can also become a freelance UX designer and work directly with clients. As a new designer, you probably don't have just one type of job in mind yet. It's good to keep your options open as you're starting out and gain experience in different job types. Once you have a better sense of the types of positions or organizations you'd like to work for, you can start honing your portfolio to communicate more strategically with those target audiences. There are infinite ways to tell your story through your portfolio, but here are some pro tips to keep in mind. First, for each project in your portfolio, clearly state the user you designed for and their problem that you tried to solve. Second, show each step of the design process in enough detail to demonstrate your grasp of the fundamentals. Many entry-level UX design portfolio case studies are clearly structured to follow the phases of the design process: empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test. Next, highlight your final designs or prototypes from each project. You should also include positive user feedback about your final designs or success metrics you might be able to capture. Finally, demonstrate a willingness to learn. This can come across in your reflections on your own work. For example, instead of only highlighting everything you did well, it can be useful to identify mistakes you made during the process and things you'd do differently next time. The goal of your portfolio as an entry-level designer is to show potential. You want to prove that you have enough skills to do the nitty-gritty, sometimes tedious design work, and that you're open to continuing to learn. Just like the design projects you completed throughout the certificate program, you're constantly iterating on your portfolio. As you make changes to your portfolio now, remember that this is an ongoing process, and your portfolio will continue to improve with time. Now that you've started to prepare your portfolio for job applications, let's discuss the job interview process. Typically, there are multiple steps in the interview process for UX design jobs. That might include a first interview that's often done over the phone, and a second round of interviews with a panel interview, a whiteboard exercise, and a design exercise. Let's explore each of these in more detail. Once you've applied to a job, The first interview you might have is a phone screen. The first interview is an introductory call with a recruiter or hiring manager to determine whether you meet the minimum set of requirements for the role. They might also be used to determine what your strongest skills and interests are to make sure you're being considered for the right jobs at the company. The first interview often takes place over the phone or a video call. Your interviewer will probably reserve a portion of this first call for you to ask questions about the role, so you should have a couple of thoughtful questions about the job or the company prepared. Before your first interview, do some research on the company. Read the job description thoroughly and familiarize yourself with the product or service you might be working on. If there are products you're unfamiliar with, take some time to learn more about them before your interview. There's a better chance that a recruiter or hiring manager will be interested in you if you show a real interest in the job. If all goes well, you might be asked to schedule a second phone call or a video interview to discuss your relevant knowledge and skills in more depth. The second round of interviews usually explores your experience in more depth so that the team you're applying to can understand how your background fits the role. They're a great opportunity for you to showcase your passions and highlight your strongest skills. Second round interviews are more likely to be in person. These interviews can take anywhere from an hour to a full day. If your interviews are in person, they will likely all happen on the same day. However, if your second round of interviews is remote, they are more likely to be spread out over multiple days. The second round of interviews might include a panel interview or a whiteboard interview. A panel interview is when a group of people meet with you at the same time to assess your skills. The interviewers might ask you for examples of situations that demonstrate your work ethic and how you might approach problem solving. They might also ask you to present your portfolio to the panel and answer questions they have about it. If you are asked to submit a design exercise before the panel interview, you might present that exercise to the panel. Otherwise, you might be asked to participate in a whiteboard interview. A whiteboard interview includes a practical demonstration of your skills in real time for your interviewers. You'll learn more about design exercises and whiteboard interviews later in this course. After your second round of interviews, you'll hopefully receive a job offer. But keep in mind that the number and types of interviews involved in the hiring process can vary depending on the needs of the company, its size, its industry, and the company culture. Each company handles hiring a little differently. For example, at small companies or startups, it's common for every interviewee to speak with someone on the leadership team before an offer is extended. To learn more about what to expect during your interview, you can reach out to your recruiter or your contact at the company for more information. Now that you have a better idea of what to expect during your interviews, let's discuss how to prepare. One of the most important things that you can do to prepare for an interview is to learn about the organization you're interviewing with and the products you might work on. You want to know what you're getting yourself into before the interview takes place. So in this video, we'll discuss how to conduct pre-interview research. The first step in your pre-interview research is to explore the requirements and expectations of the job you're applying for. Start by reading the job description in detail. Or you can reach out to someone who has the job or has worked in a similar role. If you don't know someone personally, consider reaching out on a professional networking site like LinkedIn. Speaking with someone who has the job you're applying for can help you get a sense of the background, knowledge, and skills that you'll need to succeed in that job. Just remember to use your discretion on who you contact, and be sure to keep your messages concise and professional. The second step in the pre-interview research process is to build a knowledge base about the company you're applying to and its products. Throughout the interview process, you can expect to be asked what you know about the company and its products, so you want to be well prepared. Consider researching questions like, what's the company mission statement? What products do they have in the market? How are those products designed? What's the company culture like? You can find answers to these questions in a lot of different ways, such as exploring the company's website to learn about their values, or checking out the company's social media accounts to understand what they post about. You'll want to spend extra time researching products that you could work on if you were to get the job. In addition, asking a few questions about the company's products during your interview can demonstrate that you're truly interested in the company's work. All right, the third step in your pre-interview research is to determine common interview questions that may be asked. Use a search engine to ask, what are common interview questions for a UX designer position? Compare information from different sources until you get a general idea of the most common questions asked in entry-level UX design interviews. You can also use other sources, like reviews of the job interview process on sites like Glassdoor or Indeed, in order to gather additional information about questions that might be asked. As part of this program, we'll also provide a list of common UX design interview questions in the course reading. Now that you know what questions you may be asked, the fourth step in your pre-interview research is to prepare answers to each interview question. You may even want to ask a friend or family member to help you practice for your interview by asking you questions from the list. Preparing answers to interview questions requires understanding how to describe the case studies in your portfolio and knowing the narrative you want to share about yourself. First, to describe the case studies in your portfolio, you should reflect on the user you designed for and their goals and pain points. You should also be ready to explain how you use the design process to help solve the user problem. When asked, explain your design process and the deliverables you created. Describe how your designs were tested and refined at each stage. Conveying your thought process is important during an interview, so practice like you're giving a presentation about each of your case studies. It doesn't have to be too technical, and you can show your creativity too. In addition, you need to know the narrative you want to share about yourself. Build a story about who you are as a designer, your personal brand, and reasons why projects were important to you. To prepare, ask yourself questions like, is there a project in my portfolio that marks a turning point in my learning or career? What challenges did I encounter during the design process, and how did I overcome them? What did I learn from each project? You want the interviewers to understand who you are as a designer and as a potential employee. By creating an easy-to-follow narrative about who you are, you can give the interviewers insight into your value as a candidate. Keep in mind that interviewing is a skill, and like all skills, practice makes perfect. Do your research, invest in preparation, and don't be shy about rehearsing your answers to interview questions. Take every opportunity to learn, grow, and improve. Pre-interview research is just the beginning. In the next video, we'll discuss getting to know your interviewers. Let's keep going. One of the most important things that you can do to prepare for an interview is to get to know your interviewers. Is the person you're meeting with a recruiter, a hiring manager, or an evaluator? Depending on the company's hiring process, you might eventually interview with all of these types of interviewers. So let's explore the roles of a recruiter, a hiring manager, and an evaluator in detail. Typically, recruiters are liaisons between you as a potential employee and the hiring manager. For the most part, recruiters work for a company or agency to find candidates that fit the requirements that the hiring manager has outlined. Recruiters usually begin the hiring process by conducting the first interview, which is often a phone screen to determine whether you meet the minimum set of requirements for the role. Speaking with a recruiter during your first interview is an excellent opportunity to figure out if you and the role are a good match for each other. During this first interview, the recruiter might ask questions like, what do you know about the company or product? Why are you interested in the position? What are your strengths? Can you take me through one of your design projects? During the first interview with a recruiter, don't be afraid to ask questions of your own. In fact, recruiters expect you to. You shouldn't feel like asking questions make you seem unprofessional or inexperienced. It's quite the opposite, actually. Asking questions shows that you're interested in the position. It also helps you figure out if the job is something you could enjoy and see yourself doing well in. Some questions you might ask recruiters include, Does this position have room for growth? How is the work-life balance of this company? What can you tell me about the team? In addition to interviewing you, recruiters should provide support and any helpful information you need before meeting with the hiring manager. A hiring manager is the person the role will report to or work alongside on a daily basis. If you're interviewing with a hiring manager, they might have more detailed questions about your portfolio, knowledge, and skills. In many cases, they want to know how you've handled difficult situations in the past and if you're prepared to manage them in the future. Self-aware employees who want to learn and grow are much more in demand than those who can't recognize their mistakes. Hiring managers want to learn more about you as a person too. You'll want to focus on your related UX work most of the time, of course. But don't be afraid to mix in a personal story as well that expresses your personality and your interests, as long as it's appropriate. Depending on the company you're interviewing with, you might meet with a hiring manager at any point during the interview process. Finally, an evaluator is a subject matter expert who isn't a professional recruiter or hiring manager, but is there to evaluate candidates to make a recommendation on whether to proceed with the interview process. Evaluators might approach the interview similarly to hiring managers, but focus more on your range of skills. A lot of times, evaluators are keeping an eye out for candidates who might be a good fit for the company as a whole instead of for just one particular role. You're likely to interview with an evaluator during the second round of interviews, like during a panel or whiteboard interview. So far, we've discussed the types of roles your interviewers might have. Another way to get to know your interviewers is to do a bit of research on them. There are two main places to search for information about your interviewers: the company website and their interviewer's LinkedIn profile. Smaller companies often have an About page on their company website where they list team members. The company site can help you learn more about each interviewer's role at the company. Another place to search for information on your interviewers is LinkedIn. Today, most professionals maintain a LinkedIn profile. These profiles usually include an individual's job history and related experiences. Your interviewer also might include their portfolio of work on LinkedIn, which is a super valuable resource. Reviewing their portfolio shows that you're interested in them and have done your research, which helps you make a strong impression that you're committed to becoming a member of their team. And that's it. You now know about the types of people who might interview you for an entry-level UX design role: a recruiter, a hiring manager, and an evaluator. And you know about a couple of ways to do research on your interviewers. Up next, we'll explore how to build a rapport with your interviewers. Now that you know a little more about who your interviewers might be, take a few minutes to consider how to build rapport with them. Every step in the interview process is an opportunity to build rapport, meaning a friendly, empathetic relationship that makes communication and connection easy. Let's explore some tips for building rapport with your interviewer. First, be yourself. Every person you meet during an interview might be a future colleague that you'll have a long-term professional relationship with. In the same way you want to know more about who they want to know more about you. That means actively sharing about yourself to build a relationship, while also being professional and respectful of their personal boundaries. Second, be genuine. This means being your authentic, professional self and representing your work and your values honestly. Communicate professionally in the way that you feel most comfortable and natural. This is important because you want to feel comfortable being your professional self in any work environment where you're eventually hired. Third, be confident. You might be nervous as you start the interview, but keep in mind that you've done the work to get from submitting your application to being in the interview, sharing your knowledge, skills, and qualifications. The interviewer was interested in you enough to advance you to this point in the process, so you've already proven you're a great candidate. It's important that you feel comfortable enough to answer questions honestly, based on your experience or knowledge. An interview is not about trying to pass a test with a single right answer. Fourth, be curious. Keeping an open mind creates more opportunities for you to learn more about the person you're communicating with, the job you're interviewing for, and the company you're considering joining. Being genuinely curious leads to having better, more insightful questions. You might think you already know a ton about the company because you did your pre-interview research. But ask questions and learn more about the people you'd be working with and how they feel about the organization. And finally, be appropriate. Always keep in mind that you're seeking a professional role in a business context. Do your homework so you know how to represent yourself appropriately. At some companies, wearing a suit to the interview might not be appropriate. At other companies, wearing a suit might be a requirement. When in doubt, ask the recruiter. But it's usually best to be overdressed than underdressed. In addition, use appropriate professional language at every touch point in your job search, even if they don't. You want to build a rapport, but being too casual in your conversations could cause interviewers to misunderstand your ability to work in a professional environment. This could be the one thing that prevents them from recommending you for the position. Great. Now that you know more about the people you're meeting with and how to build a rapport with them, let's explore a method for answering interview questions. The interview process can seem intimidating and overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be. In this video, we'll cover some strategies for answering questions in a UX design interview. I've been in the UX design industry for over 25 years, so I've conducted my fair share of interviews. To kick things off, let me share some of the questions I like to ask when interviewing UX designers. The first question I like to ask is, can you tell me about a time when you did your own research to understand user needs? Another question I ask is, what kind of research did you do and why? What were the most surprising insights? And finally, I'll often ask interviewees, what part of the design process do you enjoy doing the most? Why? Those questions might feel new to you, or they might seem familiar, but I'll outline a great way to answer them in an interview setting. The best answer is a clear answer that actually addresses the question being asked. Don't be afraid to take the time to gather your thoughts and know what direction you want to take before answering. Preparing a list of interview questions and answers ahead of time is a great way to study for an interview. A helpful strategy for answering interview questions is to use the STAR method. STAR stands for situation, task, action, result. For example, imagine I'm being interviewed, and the interviewer asks me, describe a project that makes you proud. Using the STAR method, I want to structure my answer in a way that's relevant and easy to follow. My first thought goes to a specific situation that relates to that question. So I'll start with, when I was working at Microsoft on the Xbox 360 as part of the design team. Next, I'll relate that situation to the task that I was assigned. I was asked to help figure out how a new concept called achievements could actually work. Achievements were system-level rewards for meeting in-game objectives. It was a new idea that nobody had done at that point, since this was 2004. Then, I'll share the action that I took to complete that task. I worked with fellow UX designers and product managers to design the achievement system and its user experience, and then with game designers from Microsoft Game Studios to shape and validate the idea. We iterated the design with prototypes and then tested them with users to get the behavior and interaction models right. Then I worked with the interface designers to dial in the look and feel, with the sound designers to get the sound right, and with the hardware engineers to make the lights flash on the controller. Finally, I'll share the result that was achieved at the end of that situation. Through a lot of hard work, we enabled an Xbox 360 platform experience where gamers could meet an in-game objective and be rewarded with an achievement. Once they had an achievement, the gamer could press a button on their controller to learn more about it and accumulate trophies and points in a collection attached to their gamer profile. This became a signature experience for the Xbox 360 and introduced an interaction model that all games and consoles have since adopted. While answering questions using the STAR method, be sure to give the interviewers a sense of who you are and why you're there. Be well prepared with specific points about how your unique background and experiences fit with the position. Now it's your turn. Think about the 3 questions I shared at the beginning of the video and try using the STAR method to come up with responses. The more you practice, the better you'll be at using this method. Have you ever been in a situation where someone's trying to get to know you and you don't know how to describe yourself? Or have you ever felt like you went on about yourself for way too long? We've all been there. That's why when you're interviewing or networking, it's important to be prepared with an elevator pitch that describes who you are and what you're looking for. An elevator pitch is a short, memorable description that explains a concept in an easy-to-understand way. The idea is that you only have the attention of your audience for the duration of an elevator ride, so you have to be able to communicate the concept quickly and succinctly. For our purposes, the elevator pitch will focus on who you are and what makes you a unique and valuable UX designer. So what's needed in a UX designer's elevator pitch? Let me share an example of my own elevator pitch. It includes a lot of info, so let's break it down into sections. There's the intro. It details who I am and a bit about my professional background. I'm Paolo, and I'm a user experience designer, manager, leader, and educator with 25 plus years of experience designing products and services across several industries and all consumer platforms. Next is the most applicable part of my background that I bring to this job opportunity. I've contributed to the consumer user experience of billions of people through my work on YouTube, Netflix, Mercedes-Benz, Zynga, and Xbox, as well as the business enterprise experience through my work at Microsoft, Oracle, and IBM. After that, I add in what makes me excited to be working in UX and showcase my passion for the work I've done. I love being able to make technology useful, usable, and beautiful for people globally. And last, I communicate why I'm interested in working for Google. Google's mission is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. That excites me both as a designer and as a longtime user of Google products. Always come to an interview with an answer for all of these questions and an elevator pitch that communicates your qualifications for that specific job. Once you create and start using your elevator pitch, you'll see its value in all types of situations, not just when interviewing with potential employers. I can't promise that an elevator pitch will get you out of an awkward social situation, but you will be more prepared when an interviewer asks you to tell them about yourself. Take a moment now to come up with your own elevator pitch using the template I just shared. Good luck. As I mentioned earlier, during your second round of interviews, you may be asked to present your portfolio. This is your time to shine a spotlight on all of your design work. If you've been asked to deliver a presentation of your portfolio, there are many approaches you can take. Your interviewer might even have a set structure for you to follow. But to bring this concept to life, here's an example of what a portfolio presentation during an interview might include. First, introduce yourself and your background. You can keep this brief. Share your name and a short description of your educational or work background using a warm and friendly tone. Second, present your most important or relevant case study. Clearly state the user you designed for and describe the user's goals and pain points. You should also explain how you use the design process to help solve the user problem. UX designers should always put the user front and center, so you want to showcase this in your work. Then, explain your design process in order and draw attention to the deliverables you created. As part of this, you'll want to describe how your designs were tested at each stage and the improvements you made to your designs based on the insights from your testing. You should also be sure to share lessons learned. Recruiters and hiring managers are looking for someone who wants to learn and grow. A great way to show this is by calling out things you do differently the next time around. Third, if time allows, you can present an additional case study. Fourth, present any pre-assigned design exercises. We'll talk about design exercises in more detail in the next video. And fifth, invite questions from the panel about the information you presented. Keep in mind that the interviewer's job is to ask questions to learn more about your thought processes. So don't be surprised if they have a lot of questions for you. Now that you're ready to present your portfolio, remember to keep calm and confident. You've reached one of the final stages of the interview process, and you deserve to be in the room. You've done amazing work, and showing confidence in your design choices will make you appear more professional. When you're done with the interview, thank everyone for their time and for any insights they might have given you about your work or design process. Finally, it's also a good idea to follow up after your portfolio presentation with a thank you email that includes a recap of your qualifications and your interest in the position. You might not get a response, but it's a good habit to get into as you interview. If you don't have contact information for everyone in the interview, you can always send a message through whoever your company contact has been throughout the interview process. Portfolio presentations can be tough, but they're a great opportunity to celebrate your skills and accomplishments. The best practices we've covered will help you communicate who you are as a designer and the unique qualities that make you an asset to potential employers. Check out the course readings for more information about how to ace this type of interview. Job interviews for UX designers often include a practical demonstration. Whiteboard interviews are a popular way of conducting these demonstrations. Whiteboard interviews get their name from the erasable writing surfaces that are used for teaching and planning that you see in so many classrooms and offices. During a whiteboard interview, you'll be given a design problem to solve in real time using a whiteboard, so that interviewers can observe and learn about how you work. This kind of exercise is a chance for interviewers to watch you work in action, which can help them assess your knowledge, thought process, design capabilities, and communication skills. Usually, as you come up with design solutions on the whiteboard, interviewers will ask questions about your process. Interviewers might even join you on the whiteboard as they would with a colleague. The goal of this exercise is to simulate a real-world work experience. The interviewers want to put you in a situation that tests how you engage with colleagues, manage the stress involved with questions and debate, and respond to the pressure of designing based on constraints they'll provide. A whiteboard interview might be one-on-one with an interviewer or with a panel of interviewers from different parts of the team that you'd be joining. So, you might be wondering, how can I prepare for a whiteboard interview? Well, first, do your research before the interview. Any problem given to you during a whiteboard interview has to be limited enough for you to make meaningful progress in a short amount of time. But it also needs to be open and ambiguous enough to allow for your unique perspective to come through. Make the most of sites like Indeed or Glassdoor to research examples of whiteboard interviews and get a sense for what they're like. There are tons of examples of whiteboard interview questions online. Remember the prompt generator from Sharpen that you used to select your portfolio projects? All of those prompts are similar to whiteboard interview cases you might be asked to design. Second, practice thinking aloud. During a whiteboard interview, you'll need to describe each decision you make and explain your reasoning. Remember, interviewers want to understand your thinking process, so you need to share what's on your mind. Your ultimate goal is to be able to accurately describe your thoughts without getting lost in the details. Thinking aloud can feel a little awkward at first, so it takes a lot of practice. A great way to check how well you can think aloud is to practice answering a whiteboard interview question and record yourself. Then review the video to check whether your logic and explanations are clear. The third tip I'll share to help you ace your whiteboard interview is to clarify your task. Pay careful attention to what's being asked of you. After an interviewer gives you your task, repeat it back to them to be sure you understand the instructions, the goal, and the constraints. This is also where you can ask for clarification before you get started to make sure you fully understand the challenge. These types of interviews often create ambiguous conditions on purpose to test how candidates react. After you receive the design task, start whiteboarding your design process where you feel most comfortable. For example, If you identify a shortcut in the research information provided at the start of the interview, don't worry about following every step of the design process we've shown in this course. While you often want to go in the order of the design process, empathize, define, ideate, prototype, test, you don't always have to follow this process from beginning to end. Remember, at any point during the whiteboard interview, you can ask questions. If you want to know about use cases, edge cases, or even the general demographics of your target users, it's best to ask questions and adjust your design from there. Here's an insider tip from my perspective as an interviewer. One of the most important questions to ask is to clarify who the user is. That's a great place to start your whiteboard exercise. And last but not least, always be confident. During a whiteboard exercise, you're in your element. Everything you've learned throughout this program will give you the tools you need to solve these problems. You get to take the design process you've spent so much time practicing and put it into action. Keep in mind, you wouldn't have gotten this far into the interview process if the employer wasn't interested in you, your skills, and your creativity. So use this time to wow them. So you now know a few tips and tricks to help you ace a whiteboard interview. You've got this. There's one last thing that I think might help you prepare. Let's discuss the criteria upon which your whiteboard exercise will be evaluated. While each interviewer is totally unique, here's a list of common questions that your interviewers might be asking themselves during your whiteboard interview. What questions did they ask before starting? Do they know the user they're designing for? Does this product design fit the guidelines given? Do they think too independently, or do they rely too much on the team's help? Are they truly brainstorming, or are they focusing only on one design? Are they addressing the core problem of the exercise? How well do they communicate as they design? Is this someone who can work well on a team? I know that these whiteboard interviews can feel intimidating, but I can assure you that there's nothing to worry about. Explaining your design process is something that you'll do throughout your work and career as a UX designer. In the real world, it's important for team members to know the thinking behind each other's designs, so they can more easily collaborate and decide on design solutions. So, it's important to feel comfortable describing your thought process while designing, both for interviews and beyond. Now that you're starting to get the hang of the whiteboard interview process, let's talk about take-home design exercises. During a take-home design exercise, you'll follow a similar process as a whiteboard interview, but you'll do the work on your own and from the comfort of your own home. You might have anywhere from 12 hours to multiple days to come up with ideas for design based on a specific prompt. Just like with a whiteboard exercise, you want to pay careful attention to what's being asked of you and clarify the task if needed. Read the instructions thoroughly and carefully. After the take-home design exercise ends, you should be ready to present your design solution. In many cases, you will be asked to present your take-home design exercise as part of your second round of interviews or in front of a panel of interviewers. And that's it. Using what you've learned thus far, you should be ready to handle almost any type of interview you come across. Before moving on to the final part of this course, take some time to prepare for interviews. The more time and effort that you put into preparing, the better the interview will go. When you complete the certificate program, which you're very close to doing, I want you to have all the tools necessary to find a great job. Lots of UX designers find work with companies in need of long-term design solutions. Other times, UX designers find work on their own as freelancers. A freelancer is a person who is self-employed, runs their own business, and isn't committed to a particular client long-term. A lot of organizations rely on freelancers as part of their workforce. It's very common for companies to hire designers to work on projects that end once the project's goals are achieved. The freelance designers can then work on other projects with other clients. Once you've worked with a client, depending on their needs and how happy they are with your work, they could turn into long-term recurring clients. This offers some additional benefits that can make freelancing easier, such as having to spend less time finding other clients and developing contracts. So, let's talk about why someone might choose to become a freelancer. First, being a freelancer means working for yourself. You can choose to work only with certain types of clients or projects and decide your work hours. Although working for yourself also means you're responsible for marketing, finance, operations, and all other business needs, for many people, the flexibility of freelancing is important. They may have health concerns or family responsibilities that make full-time roles difficult. Or they might just feel more productive working hours that aren't supported by traditional office environments. This flexibility means freelancing can be a great option if you find yourself between other types of employment too. Second, freelancing is a great way to expand your portfolio. It's totally normal to be working on lots of short to medium-term projects that span multiple project types and industries as a successful freelancer. This helps you build a diverse portfolio quickly, depending on the number and variety of your clients. Third, freelancing gives you a great opportunity for networking as a designer. When you freelance, everyone you meet is another opportunity to promote your work, get new clients, and expand your network of working professionals. And finally, being a freelancer is a great way to grow your skills and knowledge of UX design. With each opportunity, project, and connection comes a new set of challenges to learn from. Now that you have a good idea of what it's like to be a freelancer, let's explore how to start setting up your freelance business. In the next few videos, we'll cover creating a business plan, finding clients, and landing projects. Meet you there. Now that you have an idea of what it's like to work as a freelancer, let's explore how you can make a business plan. A business plan is key to establishing who you are as a freelancer and what your client should expect from you. In this video, we'll cover a list of questions that you should be able to clearly answer as you build your business plan. Keep in mind, these questions don't have to be answered in any particular order. But the more of these questions that you answer, the better you'll understand your business. So let's get started. First, what's your brand identity? Talk about who you are to potential clients interested in your services or any partners you're trying to recruit to help you. A brand identity isn't just a name and logo. It's what you stand for and how you want clients and customers to feel about you. What problem are you solving for your clients? One thing we've talked a lot about in this program is how versatile UX can be. It's important to showcase how you can help your clients and what kinds of user problems you can solve. Maybe you're good at upfront research and brainstorming effective ideas. Or maybe you're an expert in wireframing and prototyping for testing. Or maybe you provide end-to-end solutions and services. Whatever it is, being clear to potential customers about the problems you can solve for them is important to building a strong freelance business. What specialized solution are you providing? To go along with the type of problems you're solving, can you also provide a unique business solution? For example, you might be fluent in multiple languages, which could be helpful for a company looking to expand into different markets. Or maybe you're an expert in mobile-first UX design and can help companies turn websites into mobile-friendly experiences. Knowing the unique skills you bring to the table as a designer can help your freelance business thrive. Who are you targeting as your preferred clientele? Knowing your ideal type of client can help you narrow your messaging and branding in order to appeal to those clients. For example, if you have previous experience working in bars or restaurants, you might be in a great position to attract clients in the hospitality industry, since you understand their business challenges and jargon. Take a moment to think about your own work history or past personal experiences and consider how that might influence the type of freelance design work you're best suited to do. Who's your competition? Get an understanding of the competitive landscape by learning about the other businesses that are competing for the same potential clients. This could be marketing firms, design agencies, or other freelancers. You can use the competitive audit skills you've developed throughout this program in a new way to scope out the competition for your own freelance business. What are your business expenses? You need to know your budget inside and out, including what it costs to keep your business running on a weekly, monthly, and annual basis. The amount of money you're able to bring in and the amount you need to spend are both key to creating your budget. Everything from your equipment, internet and phone bills, and rent should be included. So should your operation costs like advertising, marketing, and billing, and working with other people like partners, employees, and vendors. How much are you going to charge for your services? Your cost, also known as your rate, should be one of the last questions you answer because it needs to account for the market rate for similar services and your expenses. Your rate should be fair but competitive and still cover your expenses. Successful freelancers can make a very comfortable living by providing high-quality, specific services that they charge at a high but fair rate for the market. It's possible to reach this level of success, but it's not easy or quick, so be prepared to put in some work. And last but not least, what's your overall goal? Pick a goal that's aspirational but attainable, that you could accomplish in a reasonable amount of time, like in 3 to 5 years. For example, your goal might be to hit a certain amount of annual revenue, to work with a particular brand that you admire, or to build a broad portfolio of work that you're proud of. Whatever it might be, it's good to have a longer-term goal that can help guide your short-term decisions. That's it. You now know all about how to create a business plan for your freelance work. Having a detailed vision and a great business plan can keep you on the right track and help you land your first client. Let's discover how in the next video. With your business plan in place, it's time to learn how you can start finding clients as a freelancer. Let's begin by defining the type of work that you see yourself doing as a freelancer. There are a lot of ways to freelance. You can work alone. This option will give you the most freedom, but the most responsibility. You can partner with a web developer. Working with a partner generally means collaborating on the creative work and making decisions together. There's a lot to be gained from a partnership too, such as technical know-how or additional connections to clients. Or you can work with a freelance marketplace like Fiverr, Wix, or TopTool. Working in a marketplace can give you creative freedom, and the marketplace will serve as a third party for your client transactions. Keep in mind, that comes with a fee. Whichever direction you choose, it's important that you have an up-to-date portfolio that highlights your design capabilities. Reviewing your portfolio will always be something that potential clients are interested in. To start your freelancing career, it's helpful to create a social media page for your new business that includes a link to your portfolio. Once you've created a social media page, add some information about who you are as a UX designer and what your business is aiming to do for clients. You should also post some examples of your work. You can post about your new company on your personal social media profiles too, in order to reach as many potential customers as possible. You might even want to ask your friends to like or share some of your business page posts to broaden your reach. Offering a small finder's fee for any referrals that sign on as clients is a great way to thank your friends for their help and make it more worthwhile to share your business information with their networks. Your professional and personal networks can be a valuable tool in starting your own business, so make the most of it. You can also consider offering your services pro bono or free to clients. As you think about working for free, try to focus on projects in markets you want to learn more about or to support a cause that you're interested in. Treat pro bono projects like any other client, and be sure to agree on the scope of work that needs to be completed up front. You should also be open and honest about what you're hoping to get out of the relationship. I know, the idea of working for free doesn't sound appealing, but these projects can give you a lot of great practice and experience. It can also deepen your UX design knowledge while adding more projects to your portfolio. One pro tip I have for you is to be mindful of what we call scope creep. This is when the details of a project you're planning or scoping slowly increase until the project is much more complex than what was originally planned. This often happens with free work because any extra work hours needed for the bigger project cost you time and money, but not the client. Sometimes scope creep is intentional and sometimes it isn't. So don't be afraid to prepare a new scope of work for pro bono clients that includes rates for additional work. You might also use this time to reach out to small businesses in your local community that could use your services. Pitching takes time and a lot of research. You can create some designs for these proposals and repurpose them for your portfolio too. All of this work to build up your business will help you grow your client base and give you more variety in your design portfolio. It can be intimidating to start a business, but it can also be extremely rewarding and offer several paths to success. I also encourage you to feel free to switch paths if you're not getting the traction or the work you're looking for. You can always start at a marketplace and then branch off to work alone or in a partnership. The choice is yours. Okay, your freelance business is starting to take form. You have a business plan in place and you have some ideas for how to find your first customers. Up next, I'll share some tips for landing your first customer. Let's keep going. Imagine this. You have a client who's interested in your work and wants you to design a product for them. Feel free to get a little excited. The week after you meet the client at a networking event, the potential client sends you a request for proposal. The first thing you need to do is review the request for proposals, or RFP, which includes a scope of work and date to submit your proposal by. A scope of work is a document that outlines the project that you will be completing. It lays out the needs, objectives, timelines, constraints, and any external work you might need to get to complete the project. Next, you want to prepare a proposal to respond to the RFP. A proposal outlines your approach to successfully deliver the work scoped in the RFP. This is where you impress the client with all of the information you've learned about them, the industry, and their competitors. Your proposal also helps to instill confidence in your ability to do the work on time and on budget while meeting the project objectives. Usually, a proposal includes a budget estimate that details the expenses and profit margins that add up to an appropriate cost for your services. Sometimes, a client will want to negotiate this price. It's very important that you have a price that you won't drop below. You have a business and expenses that you have to manage, and devaluing your services can hurt that business. Once the client selects a contractor or freelancer based on their proposal, the client will provide a statement of work. A statement of work is a legally binding document that includes a list of detailed deliverables, their due dates, and a payment schedule. As the contractor, you will need to either agree to the proposed statement of work or negotiate any pieces you want changed. For example, if the schedule for deliverables is faster than what you can realistically turn around, you should negotiate a new schedule prior to signing the contract. The statement of work will also define how and when you'll share in-progress work with your client. This will help you both manage your expectations and get feedback on changes that are needed before finishing the project. Another item you'll want to negotiate as part of the statement of work is a payment schedule. A payment schedule lists expected payment dates and any upfront costs and contingencies. With creative work, you'll want to take some payment upfront. This can vary based on your preferences and needs, but it's normal to get between 40 and 50% upfront. This number can change based on the structure of your payments. If you'd rather have 4 installments, that number could be 25% upfront. Though there are many ways this works, just make sure that you are paid for the work that you do. Now that you've got a better idea of the work and payment schedule, it's time to review the SOW. In some cases, the client might provide the SOW for you to sign. In other cases, you might draft the contract yourself. If you need to draft the contract yourself, there are sites like Nolo, LegalZoom, and Web Design Law that have contract templates and clearly describe the process of creating legally binding contracts. For more complicated projects, it might be better to hire a contract lawyer to draw up your agreement. Now it's time to agree on the contract and sign. Once you and your client have both signed the contract, you can give your new client an invoice for the agreed upon down payment. When you get your first payment, it's time to get to work and meet your deadlines. First clients are great. Sure, it can be a little stressful, but landing your first client is important for your new business. Word of mouth is one of the most powerful tools you'll have. Your first clients can refer colleagues to your services, and they might even agree to give you a shout out on their own social networks or website. Or, in an ideal world, your first clients might come back to you for repeat business. Good luck with the new clients. You're going to do great. It might be hard to believe, but that's it for this part of the course. You now have the skills you need to enter the professional world of UX design. In this part of the course, you prepared your portfolio for job applications. Next, you explored the UX design interview process. You learned how to conduct pre-interview research about the job and company you're applying to. Then, you got to know different types of interviewers and develop strategies to build rapport with those interviewers. After that, you learned how to structure your responses to interview questions using the STAR method. We also explored some common types of UX design interview questions, including an elevator pitch, a portfolio presentation, a whiteboard exercise, and a take-home design exercise. Finally, you entered the world of freelancing. You created a business plan, and you learned how to find and land your first customer. You've added so many tools to your UX design toolbox during this part of the course. You are now ready to conquer the world of job applications, interviews, and even freelancing. You're ready to take the next step into the field of UX design, no matter what that step might be.
Congratulations on finishing this course from the Google UX Design Certificate. You can access the full experience, including job search help, and start to earn your certificate by clicking on the icon or the link in the description below. Watch the next video in the course by clicking here, and subscribe to our channel for more from upcoming Google Career Certificates.